I've uploaded 5 different sets of feedback: exit tickets, reflections, group notes, even raw comments comparing lectures to small group work. Normally, this data just sits untouched. Let's see if NotebookLM can actually make sense of it. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to click over here on the Studio tab, and then you're going to see the new Reports feature. It usually has this little diamond. If you don't see this, try logging out, logging back in. I know a lot of people were having trouble with these features disappearing, but I think Google's finally patched it. So click on Reports. Now, right away, what you're going to see is the old reports that we got before. So a briefing doc, a study guide, and a blog post. Down the bottom, we have a suggested format. I really, really like these. So what NotebookLM has done is it's taken a look at all your sources and created what it thinks you could benefit from. So here we have a program review, which is like an analytical report on student engagement and satisfaction in an English classroom. We have instructor handbook, we have a narrative compilation, and we have a comparative analysis. These are all great. I'd love to click on all of these and generate a report for each one. But today we're going to try a create your own. So we're going to create our own custom report. So the first thing we have is choose our language. So we can choose, I think, up to 30 different languages. And then down the bottom here is where we're going to paste our custom instructions. Here are the instructions I'm going to use. Create a structured report that analyzes all uploaded student feedback, summarize reoccurring strengths, struggles, and emotional patterns. Highlight 3 key themes with citations. End with actionable recommendations I can apply in lessons. Keep it teacher-friendly. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a custom report that I need for my specific students to help me improve my classrooms. Now, the next thing you're going to do is click Generate. This is going to take a few minutes, so I'll see you when it's finished. That took about 2 to 3 minutes. It'll really depend on how many sources that you've added into NotebookLM. So right away, we have an introduction to the understanding of my students' voices. Great, it identified 3 strengths that my students have. So we have interactive and peer-based learning, we have practical and applicable skills, and then we have clear explanations and teacher feedback, which is great. It also identified the struggles that my students were having. This is what I'm really interested in. So conceptual and grammatical confusion, we have clarity and materials and instructions, and then finally we have pacing and participation. And look at that. It even captured the emotional landscape of the classroom, and it organizes in a great chart that I could quickly take a look at and see where my students are struggling emotionally in the classroom. And here's the part that really hit me. Students love group work for building fluency, but the same activity frustrates others when participation is unequal or instructions are unclear. Without NotebookLM, I would have missed that tension. That's not just saving time, that's exposing the blind spots in my teaching I need to fix. But it doesn't stop with reports. NotebookLM now generates flashcards directly from your sources. I can take the same student feedback or even my lesson plans and instantly get digital flashcards that highlight key terms, struggles, and reoccurring themes. I've switched over to a new notebook. This notebook I use for my AI communications class. In this class, I teach EFL students prompt engineering. So we're going to take a look at flashcards. To find flashcards, they're right next to the reports. Now you have the same options as the custom reports. You can customize your flashcards. You can have it give you fewer flashcards, standard or more. You can make the flashcards easy, medium, or hard. You can also add custom instructions. But I'll be honest, I've played with about 100 sets of custom instructions. However, the custom instructions I tried to use didn't work out too well. I couldn't tell it exactly how many flashcards I wanted. I couldn't do a lot of customized things. However, you can do what it suggests. For example, you can restrict it to a specific source. Even though if I wanted to do that manually, I could just come over here into the sources and uncheck the sources that I don't want it to pull from. You can also force the flashcards to a specific topic. So if you have a large source, or like me, I have a chapter that I want to focus on, I could focus on a specific chapter of that book. And then finally, you can make the cards short, or maybe the language used in the cards a little bit easier. Especially me, I'm dealing with EFL students, so English is not their first language. That would be a good customization to add. However, for this one, I'm just going to click Generate. Now, to save us a little bit of time, because this takes 2 or 3 minutes, I've already created the flashcards in advance. Here they are here. To make the flashcards easier to see, just click the Expand View button. And there you go. Now you have an interactive flashcard set that you can use in your classroom. Now, right away, I noticed that the explanation at the front is might be a little bit too difficult for my students. So then I would go back into the custom instructions and instruct NotebookLM to make the explanation either shorter or a little bit more EFL friendly. But I have my topic here. I can click See Answer, and there we go, prompt engineering. Now, one of the things that sets NotebookLM flashcards apart from any other flashcard app you're going to use is this little button right here. So when you hit the Explain button, NotebookLM is going to go back over all your sources, and it's going to explain this flashcard in like a brief summary so that your students won't have to go back and reread all the sources. They can just come right to this explanation, and they can get a better feeling or a better sense of what, for example, what prompt engineering is all about. It even gives you the citations of where it got these reports from. And that's perfect if your students don't understand part of the flashcard or what they're learning. Now, unfortunately, there is a kind of a downside to using NotebookLM for flashcards. There's no real way to export the flashcards themselves. If you wanted to share this with your students, you're going to have to export or share the entire notebook. And unfortunately, if you're dealing with students in K-12, you can't use Google NotebookLM if you're under the age of 18. A workaround could be you could display the flashcards on a TV in the classroom, and you can have students work together on them, do it as like a classroom activity, or you could have their parents download the app and they could use the app at home. The last feature for NotebookLM we'll take a look at is the new quiz feature. Now, I've switched over to a new notebook. This notebook I use with my English communication classes, and here we only have one source, which is our actual textbook. To find the quizzes, just click on this little pencil icon. Now, if you accidentally click on quiz, it is going to generate a generic quiz for you based on that source. And unfortunately, you can't cancel it while it's creating. We'll have to wait a couple of minutes for it to generate. Trust me, I've done that like several times today. We have some similar options to the flashcards. We can create fewer, we can create standard, more, we have level of difficulty, easy and medium and hard. And then of course we have the custom instructions. Now, again, keep in mind that I would call this an experimental feature because it doesn't work as great as you think it will. Again, you have to experiment with the different kinds of custom instructions to see what the limits are. But it does have a lot of potential, and I believe it'll only get better over time. Here are my custom instructions. Create a 10-question multiple choice quiz based on Chapter 3, Lifestyles, Money, and Future, from my uploaded English communication textbook. Use only examples and sentences from that chapter. Each question should test comprehension of vocabulary or grammar from the text. Provide 4 options for each question. I don't think I need that last sentence there. I believe it automatically generates 4 options, but let's generate. So I've generated this beforehand just to save some time. And here is the quiz that it generated. All right, so this is a great little interactive quiz. We have our question up the top, and then we complete the sentence with the correct vocabulary word. After my father, blah, 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 he will stop working and I will give him money every month. Oh, great son. The answer is retires, obviously. I'll click next. It's very interactive. You can click on it. It's very easy to use. I love this feature. You can click hint. If the student is struggling with figuring out the answer, instead of them grabbing their phone and using a translator, in the case of my Korean students, they can look at the hint and then use their brain to try to figure it out on their own. Unfortunately, this has the same downsides as the flashcards and even the report. You can't really export these interactive flashcards. They can only be used within the app. You will have to share the entire notebook with your class. If you're teaching university, that shouldn't be too bad. Your students are over 18, so they all have access to NotebookLM. Something that I'm planning on doing is creating a NotebookLM notebook for each of my communication classes. That way, when I want to share a quiz with them, I can just add it to that notebook that we all share, and they all have access to it, and they can complete it in class. Also, I'm planning on having them create their own custom quizzes to see how they can learn on their own. So it's a great feature. Highly recommend checking it out, and it has a ton of potential. It's only going to get better with time. So that's the full update. Reports, flashcards, and quizzes. Together, they turn a messy stack of student voices into organized insights, active learning tools, and even test prep. But here's the catch. NotebookLM is only as smart as the instructions you give it. In my next video, I'll show you the difference between prompt engineering and context engineering, and why most teachers are using the wrong one. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it.